Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, I'm pleased to have the head coach of the Bristol Central football program, Jeff Papazian. Coach, first, I just want to say I'm glad I could finally reel you into the podcast.
No, appreciate you having me on, Chris. This was kind of a great thing that came out of all the kind of chaos of last summer. So glad to finally be here with you.
And I think for a lot of people who may be wondering, Bristol Central, I hear that name a lot. Well, there's been a lot of talent that have come out of the school, and there's some talent that's still in the school. There's a player in your program, Victor Rosa, who is a football player. He's going to have an opportunity to play college football. You also have Klinger, the talented basketball player. He's going to play at UConn. Real quick, before we get into, yourself and the program and all that, how is there so much talent in Bristol and mainly in Bristol Central? Just tell me about that.
Oh, I think part of it is we're a little bit fortunate right now. We've got some really talented kids in the school and in all aspects of school too. Not just athletics, but throughout the building. And they happen to live on our side of town right now. Obviously, being a 2 high school town. But I don't know that it's much more than that. I think places have their kind of ups and downs. You go through different levels of talent, and we're in a pretty good run right now.
Yes, you are, Coach, and you've had a lot of talent yourself. I mean, you and I were just talking about Dathan Hickey, who's at Yale, and he has an opportunity to be able to do basically whatever he wants because he's just a great kid, and we're going to go down the road as far as the program itself in just a little bit. But Coach, I want to talk about yourself first, because I think over the course of the last year plus, there's been a lot because of COVID and everything else. And I just want to know, kind of like, honestly, how did you yourself deal with the fact of the emotional roller coaster that was, September 4th, for everybody who probably, I think, won't forget, was when the CIAC canceled football last year. And how did yourself deal with that news?
Yeah, it was difficult in a sense on a personal level, but I think as the the head coach, as the adult in the program, you need to kind of be there for your players as well. Just kind of as a realist and as someone who paid attention pretty closely to everything that went on last summer. Not that was inevitably going to be the solution, but it was certainly a possibility all along that it was going to happen. So you kind of come to terms with all the different, scenarios that could happen. To say it was totally shocking, I wouldn't say I was totally shocked by it. Disappointed for sure. And then, I had to kind of turn right away to, okay, what's this alternate season going to look like? And how do we get that off the ground to at least be able to have something for the guys to be able to participate in during the fall.
And, there were, for people who may have forgotten, there were events that were, there was 7-on-7, there were lineman challenges. So there was something for the young men to be able to compete a little bit. But realistically, the pads, the tackle, all of that was not allowed because of COVID-19. And during that time, Coach, because you're the head coach, you're the leader that, your players look up to you. How, in some ways, it's almost like you were coach, but also too, you basically had many, many hats, because you were trying to make sure, I would think, that the players on and off the field were taken care of, just making sure that everybody was not steering off in different directions because of all the extra time that was awarded to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing was, first and foremost, we wanted to follow all the district policies and all the, DPH policies as far as, COVID and everything else we had to take care of. After that, we set a standard, listen, we're not going to deviate from some of the things that we would expect from you out of a normal season. You're going to come to practice, you're going to be on time, you're going to you're going to learn, you're going to listen, and all that stuff. And then, to be honest with you, Chris, we had some fun with it too. And like, we had the linemen running 7-on-7. We were having touch football tournaments at practice. Just knowing that there wasn't truly an actual football game to get ready for, kind of helped us do that. So you'd have the big guys throwing or running routes and catch the ball. And it was we tried to make it meaningful, and then also, um, I think the biggest thing was how can we make this enjoyable for the kids? Because you're right, it was never going to be what we truly wanted, but I think as best we could, we made the best out of that situation last fall.
Who doesn't love the big guys running routes?
Yeah,
I mean,
rumbling around. I know, trying to catch it. Yeah, no, it was cool. And then we when we had the actual competitions with other schools, we kind of made sure that, hey, we're going to get this in too. So you'd have the big guys, going against each other in the 7-on-7 portion, at the end of the games, I guess, per se. So no, it was, like I said, I think we did the best we could with it, and kids, I think, learned a little bit, but hopefully had some fun doing it too.
and you talked about the fun coach and trying to be able to, keep things, enjoyable and just kind of keep them maybe even just away from all the stress of the football stuff and just have them just enjoy being around because of the limited interaction, during that time. When I had the Xavier head coach, Coach Guion, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Sure.
He was ecstatic because he had competitive dodgeball.
Hmm.
And he was like, you know what? Let's you 5-on-5 competitive dodgeball. And he was excited. He was hyped about it. And I was laughing because it's like, you know what? That sounds like fun. And was there anything like that going on in the Bristol Central practices?
Yeah, it was really whatever we could do to get some competitions going. We tried to compete in everything we could. Again, following all the guidelines and everything. And Andy's right. Dodgeball is a great idea. Hey, you're distance, nobody's near each other, and dodgeball. So sure, why not? But yeah, a lot of it, like I said, was kind of flipping around. Do have one-on-one pass routes with the big guys, or have some of the skill guys try to do lineman drills and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we got creative, and we tried to just keep those kids engaged as best we could, keep them occupied, and hopefully get their mind off everything for at least a couple hours while they were with us. So I think that was the right way to do it. We got through well in terms of guidelines and um, anything kind of COVID related. So for whatever that's worth, that's how it went.
Would you say, Coach, from the end of the quote unquote fall, season, whatever you want to call it, leading up to the winter and spring and such, would you say that the Bristol Central players held themselves accountable amongst the players? Because as a head coach, you can only do so much because of the protocols and making sure you're following CIAC protocols and all that, the rules basically. Do
Mm-hmm.
you feel like the players kind of policed themselves and made sure that they held each other accountable because they knew the situations with the other, stuff?
I think we did, and a handful of them, got to play basketball in the winter. Quite a few were involved in spring sports. So I think that really helped everybody when that kind of opened up in the spring. Just to get kids out, whether it was baseball or track. Um, we had a good majority of our guys participating in something. Again, just wanting to get out there, wanting to compete again. I think was good. But our guys do a good job. Um, being accountable to what we're asking for. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think we did okay, and it'll be a big test again going into the fall now.
Now, as we, we're technically we're still in the summer, but as far as when the summer was just starting and there was news about you could do, weightlifting, you can do other various things. I mean, were you kind of like jumping because realistically, the last time you really could do that was going back to like 2019 because of
Yeah.
COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So were you kind of like, yes, I want to get back into it, but then at the same time, you're like, you don't want to do too much too early because obviously, like I mentioned, 2019 was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, getting kids reacclimated was important. And it's part of the process of going through right now with practice starting up too. It's been said a whole bunch of times, but the kids that are our juniors this fall, the last time they played football, they were freshmen. You know, and our sophomores, our kids that are sophomores, have never actually been through high school football practice, and those are kids we're looking for to contribute. So I think everything that you do from the start of the summer, like you mentioned, right through this season has got to have that in mind. It's a little different this year. We're fortunate we got a couple guys who played significant snaps for us as freshmen. With Victor and Dan Loretti started 10 games for us as a defensive lineman his freshman year. And other than that, you're looking at guys with some special teams experience or maybe spot starters here and there. So yeah, when we were, I guess to answer your question, when we were able to get out there, it's like, all right, let's get the regulations, let's get the rules that are going to be put in place, figure out how we're going to follow them, and let's get the guys back together at least. I think that was such an important part of it, maybe even more so than what you actually did physically conditioning, whether it was outside or in the weight room, that everybody could kind of be back together as one group.
And how was the turnout during the summer? I know obviously with vacations and other things and potentially other sports, it makes it a little bit difficult because it's not mandatory, but it is, if you can come, please basically come because you missed a lot of time, not your fault. But I mean, how was that? Because I know with the various conversations I've had with coaches inside the NVL and just with other schools, the turnout was a little bit tough, not so much because of the players didn't want to come, it's because they didn't have the players because of various issues. So how was that for Bristol Central?
I would say the guys that we do have were really committed over the summer. There's, I think, like we spoke to kind of beforehand, going to be numbers issues at a lot of programs, but I got to say that the guys that we do have were really committed this summer. Obviously, like you said, vacations and things like that, that's every summer. That's every year you're dealing with that stuff. Our guys have been really consistent. I got to say our freshman numbers have been really good. We had 32 ninth graders come out, so that speaks well for going forward. And those kids were really consistent all summer too. So about as good as we could have hoped for. Never going to get 100% every day, every week, but they did a good job all summer.
I'm not surprised, Coach, that that you had 32 players as far as the freshmen, coming out to play because of kind of the quote unquote the minor league system in Bristol. I know there's a lot of football played, Pee Wee and all that, and because of the legacy that you have built, Coach, as far as kind of who you are, what you are. I mean, you're basically Mr. Bristol Central. I mean, for what you have done over the course of the years with the program. So I'm not surprised that you had such a turnout. And I feel like once you can get back into the hallways, protocols and all, 6 feet, whatever it's got to be, you're going to be back on the, hey, you ever thought about playing football? Hey, you're pretty big. You want to come, play center, or practice a little bit? Like, I feel like the numbers just grow more and more.
Yeah, we'll take them all, whoever wants to come. But no, that's a really good freshman number for us. We tried to do what we could. A lot of it was online, emails and surveys and things like that, trying to recruit kids. And then, hopefully once we get them in, they have a good experience. They want to stick around. So, we'll see. We're going to keep, like you said, working those hallways when we get back into them. So
now during the summer, Coach, was there anybody, as far as it could be an upperclassman who maybe is starting to show maybe stronger leadership attributes? Is it maybe a younger player who like you mentioned, sophomores who are older now because of 2019 missed season, et cetera? Is there anybody that's really kind of jumped out to you during the summer part of the football quote unquote season thus far?
Yeah, for the most part, our senior class has led the way throughout the whole thing, and Dan and Victor, who I mentioned before, are at the top of that list just because they're kind of the guys that have been there before. But we're at 13 right now in our senior class, and those are the guys we're gonna look to and really lean on. Mike Thaxter's a kid who had a great summer for us. One of our linemen. Malachi Jones, same thing. Those guys are two guys up front that we're really looking for big contributions from this summer, or I'm sorry, this fall. But those are the guys that we're going to rely on right now. They've been around. They've been through a full varsity football season, which they're the only class right now that can say that. So, starting with them and working down. Justin Desmond is a kid who has clearly found the gym during all this COVID. He's found a way to get that done, and it's nice to see those kids that last time put a helmet on was a sophomore. Now looks like he's ready to contribute on both sides of the ball as a senior. So we're going to rely on our senior class, and we count on them to kind of bring the younger guys along as we go here.
Coach, is there a part of you that is concerned but also very intrigued about the potential? Because like you said, really the senior class is the only one that really has a lot of playing time at the varsity level. So because of that, there's a lot of unknowns, just like how every single team in the state of Connecticut has a lot of unknowns because of the lost season and so on, because of graduations. So the reason why I said the concerning part is because you don't know what really you have. But the intriguing part is the same thing. You don't know what you have, but you could be very well, not surprised, but be like, oh, I like this. Let's work with this and let's keep going. I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think you have to have that mindset, right? And then if we've said it once, we said it 100 times at practice the last 2 days. Like, all right, guys, everybody's in the same boat as us. Like, this is not a Bristol Central thing we're going through. Something kids aren't quite getting it, or something goes wrong on a play. Like, between the coaches, like, this is inexperience across the state right now. So, I think you always have to have an open mind, kind of as you're alluding to. We're at Bristol Central. We don't have 100 kids in our program. We don't recruit kids to fit a specific system. You kind of look at what you have. You look at the players you have, the talent you have, and then build around that. So that's kind of how we've always we've always built things. This year will be no different. And yeah, we'll see. It is exciting in the sense, like you said, you get to be a little bit creative. You get to maybe try some different things out. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting couple months here.
As you were going through the summer, both you and your staff, and you saw the players that you had, and now that you've gone through 2 days of practice between yesterday and today, Coach, because of obviously COVID, you and your coaches were probably on a lot of Zoom calls, texting and calling a lot. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you guys had potential, you guys had discussions about, hey, we could do this, we could do that, maybe we could do this. Now that you've gone through the summer and 2 days of practice, and you kind of see a little bit of what you have you guys had to kind of change anything up just a little bit or a lot thus far?
I'd say a little bit, and you're exactly right. That was one of the hardest parts this summer, is speculating, like, all right, this kid looks the part, like he might be able to do this, but you have no idea. You really don't, and truly until the pads actually come out, starting Saturday. I think that's when the affirmation really comes. But so far so good. We've moved a couple guys around and kind of tweaked some things, but I think we're in a good spot, and that's going to be an important part. Is shortly after we do get into pads, like, let's figure out, because I hate to move kids around once the season starts. Once they really get into it and they've learned a position, now you come up and you kind of you kind of blow the whole thing up on them. Like, you're going to change, you got to relearn a new, like, we don't want to do that to kids. So hopefully we got it pretty much right in our assessments, but we'll see in the next probably week or so here too.
Now, Coach, I really do appreciate you coming on here. The one thing I think about is every team kind of has, and at least when I think of the NVL, I know that obviously it's a very old school kind of league, very ground and pound. I mean, very few, like Naugatuck, maybe one of the few teams that is a true, because of Anderson now coming over with Salazzo resigning, and then Ali took over for a little bit, Coach Ali. They're going to be a very, I think, high prolific offense. They're going to be throwing it a ton. I can't wait to be able to call that. It's going to be fun. But typically they're ground and pound, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Bristol Central, and I apologize, I don't know as far as the playing styles. Is that something that is going to have to change just because of the unknown? Or because I know you said something about you don't get players that fit a system. So it sounds to me like you go with what you have, you mold with the players that you have.
Yeah, I think you have to, right? As a high school coach, as most high school coaches, I think have to. We're fortunate now with a quarterback who can do a lot of things, but in the past, the year Dathan played quarterback for us as a senior, Isaiah Miller was a starter, got hurt about a month before practice, and Dathan had to play quarterback. So said, all right, he's our best athlete. We're going to get the ball in his hands, and what can we do to fit his skill set? And I think that's how you have to think of it, because like I said, you can't, we're not out recruiting kids to fit our system. The kids show up, and we need to have a system that makes sense. For us, kind of historically, we've been more of a ground attack offensively. I do think with some of our skill guys that we have, coupled with Victor's ability to get the ball to him, that we should be able to open it up a little bit this year too. Which in turn, if we can be a little bit more balanced, should really help everything overall.
And like you mentioned, Coach, at the end of the day, when you have skilled players at the top level as far as talent, you mentioned Dathan Hickey, who's now at Yale, Rose, Victor as well. I think when you have a talent like him, you want him to touch the ball as many times as possible, because when he has the ball, special things end up being the result.
Yeah, you don't need to be. I don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out, Chris. I want the ball in his hands, and he's going to make good things happen with it. I think we're going to surprise some people up front too, offensively. Our guys have worked hard all summer. They're obviously going to be the key to the whole operation there. But, really, really good size up front, and a group that's eager to really learn and to do well. Which has been really the case for everybody. They ask good questions. They want to be coached. They want to be coachable, and that'll go a long way to any success that we might have this fall.
And you talked about the offensive line, Coach, and I feel like that's the strength of every team. You're only as good as much as your offensive line is. And I know they don't get a lot of love because obviously there isn't a stat. I mean, I've never seen in the paper, the left guard, Joe, whoever, pancaked 4 times. I mean, you never see that. I wish you did, because I feel like they deserve it.
But they know about it. Those guys know it all. Yes.
They know it. They know after the game. Yeah, I destroyed that. You see that defensive lineman? I took him down 10 times. They know that. I'm sure they tell you. Yeah. Do you feel like, because, and I know you just mentioned how much the offensive line has looked good to you. Do you feel like the group is, because, offensive linemen, they need to have the time together. They basically need to build the bond, the chemistry. That's what I was looking for. Do you think that's something that group is going to get over time because of the lost seasons and such?
Yeah, they will. It's not there yet. It would be unfair to expect it to be there at this point. But yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, they're with each other every day in practice. 90, probably 5% of our offensive linemen flip around and their defensive linemen on a defensive day. And those kids all, typically have the type of personality where they're not really looking for the spotlight. They're just hardworking kids who want to do a good job. And I was joking around, one of our assistant coaches said, man, if I come back in another life, I'm just going to be an O-line coach. That's what those kids, they're yes coach kids, and they just want to, they just want to be able to learn so they can play really hard and physical. And I think they're going to get there. Not there yet, but we will.
Coach, and you talked about the offensive lineman being, yes, coach, no coach, being as not just polite, but respectful. I feel like that's kind of what Bristol is and what your team is, as far, and that's something that you have been able to instill, is respect to the game, respect to others, respect to teachers, respect to yourself, respect your parents, listen, Yes, no, like, I'm trying to say, like, I feel like that's
Hmm.
something that's not something that happened overnight. Many coaches who end up getting their first job, it takes them years to be able to get the community to trust them and say, "Hey, trust me with your son," or if you're coaching women's sports, "Trust me
Hmm.
with your, daughters and stuff, because I want to be able to make them better people for when after they graduate from Bristol Central, they will have a better second career in whatever they do, if it's sports or whatever." And I feel like what you've done with the program is it's, like I said, 32 freshmen. I wouldn't be surprised next year if it's more.
Mm. No, it's a focus for us, and we're very upfront with our kids. This is going to be the expectation of the way you need to carry yourself in the classroom, the way you need to carry yourself in the hallways, and then how you need to carry yourself on the field. This is a standard. You can, if you can beat it, great, and if you can't, we're gonna have to either fix it or have some really tough discussions. But I think it helps with I have myself and one other coach in the building, so we're there. They know that if things go awry, that we're gonna hear about it and hopefully deal with it. But we've had a pretty good run. Our guys know our expectation, and for the most part, they rise to the occasion.
Coach, I really do appreciate you coming on once again. I wish you and the program nothing but the best of luck this year. I hope to have you back on at some point during the season. I know it's going to be hectic, but I think Bristol Central is going to surprise. For anyone who thinks they're going to be like to down, I doubt that. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think.
Yeah, we're ready to roll, Chris. Appreciate it. This was fun, man. I'll come to do it anytime.
No problem. And hey, I'm looking forward to it, Coach. That'll wrap
All
things
right.
up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm our Jeremy Find Them All. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.